Well, it has been a long time coming, but it is time for some October Mets baseball. And no, meaningful games, playoff games. The Mets will finally be playing October baseball. And let's look ahead, because obviously the last Mets video I did was the sweat video. And I want to kind of just, we're going to put that in the back of our mind. Obviously, they lost the division. There's nothing they could do. But you won 101 games. You are here. You need to get back to what you were doing to start the season. And that is what the Mets' number one key is, because that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about keys to the series. We're going to talk about things that could go wrong, all of that. Before we jump into this, though, be sure to leave a like on the video if you do enjoy. Subscribe if you guys are new, especially if you're Met fans. Going to cover them all postseason long, so you don't want to miss out on the content. And turn on your notifications so you know when I upload next. But let's talk about, like I said, one key going into this thing is you're really going to have to get production from guys that weren't giving you it down the stretch here. Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso, they kind of struggled a bit. They looked fine in that Nationals series, but it's the Washington Nationals. So what are we going to see? Is it going to translate? We need to see those guys step up, and that's the obvious. But first, I did want to touch on a couple things roster-wise. So, Starling Marte, it was reported today that he's able to grip a bat, able to grip a baseball again, and could be eligible to be on the wild card roster, which is very interesting because it looked like he was not on track to come back for the wild card at all. And now all of a sudden he might be playing as soon as tomorrow. So that could be huge for this squad. Or today, he would be playing today, depending when this goes up, or depending when you're seeing this. But like I was saying, yeah, interesting to see. You also have Francisco Alvarez, who impressed management with his short stint up here, very short stint. And it looks like there's a chance he makes the roster. And Buck was singing his praises. Epler was singing his praises, saying that it's amazing what he's doing at 20 years old. And that kind of gave me the vibe that he's going to make the team. Now, the question is, okay, if he makes the team, what does this mean for other guys? Well, Darren Ruff, it looks like, is not going to be on the team, as it sounds like Buck and management kind of were saying that, yeah, he's not going to be on the team, because when they were asking about Darren Ruff, he said that there's a chance that anyone could make this postseason squad. So I found that very interesting that he ended up saying that, considering the fact that there are a couple guys that are younger here. Mark Vientos, Francisco Alvarez, of course, being the two main staples of younger players on this roster. So I found it interesting. I really wonder what this roster is going to look like. It looks like McGill is not going to be on the roster, which is kind of unfortunate. I was hoping that he would be on the roster. Not necessarily that he's been pitching good, but I think that you give him a chance. I think that he looked great in that outing against the Nationals. Again, it is the Nationals, so we take it with a grain of salt for the most part, but I did like what I saw there. But it looks like they're going to go with the guys that they had in that final game of the season here. You're going to go with the pitching. It's going to be Bassett, Carrasco, DeGrom, Diaz, Givens, Hunter, maybe, Lugo, May, and Ottavino, Peterson, Rodriguez. They're going with Peterson over McGill. That is definitely something that you could say. And then, I don't know if I said Joely, but Joely, Scherzer, Smith, Walker, and Williams, it's looking like is going to be the pitching staff for the postseason squad. So very interesting to see there. And yeah, I like the choice of Peterson because he needed another lefty in that bullpen. I have my concerns with the bullpen, that is for sure. Granted, I'm a little critical of this team. I'll be the first to admit that I might be too hard on this team at times. But I do it because I know that this team could be more than what they're capable of. I've seen it this season, and what they showed me in August and September is not what they showed in the earlier portions of the season, and they need to find that game again if they want to gain momentum, if they want to go on a run here. And it's going to start with the three aces that are going to be pitching for the Mets this series, that being Max Scherzer, who is going to pitch game one no matter what. He is a starter, which I found interesting. That's him over DeGrom. And it looks like that depending on the outcome of game one, that will determine who starts game two. So if the Mets lose game one, it is going to be Jacob deGrom pitching game number two. And if it's a win for the Mets in game number one, Chris Bassett will be pitching game number two. So they could save deGrom for either a game number three, or he could pitch game one of the division series against the Los Angeles Dodgers. So That is going to be the main thing because these guys did not look sharp at all in their previous outing against the Atlanta Braves. They looked awful. They got beat, and they got beat pretty bad. So it's something that is going to be crucial for this team going into the postseason here, getting quality production from those guys. And in terms of their results during the season against the Padres, the Mets went, I believe, 2-4. I don't remember who pitched any of those games. I remember Bassett pitching one of those games, if I recall correctly, but I'm trying to quickly gather that info here. All right, so yes, I was correct. Bassett and Scherzer both pitched against the Padres this season. Scherzer once, which he was dominant. Bassett, one really dominant start, one really awful start where he allowed 7 earned runs in that game. Now I'm starting to remember that one. But yeah, this is going to be a tall task when it comes to the pitching staff because you look across at the Padres lineup, you have Manny Machado, Juan Soto now waiting too, Josh Bell. Those two in particular are giving them trouble as of lately when they were spending their time on the Washington Nationals. And you also still have in that lineup Hwaseo Kim. You have a couple other guys. I don't know why I'm forgetting. Cronenworth is in there. There's a couple quality bats in there, and you're going to have to be able to shut them down. And it's going to start with the 3 aces, and it's going to go to the bullpen that needs to be on lockdown mode. And I think the bullpen looked pretty solid down the stretch here, which is something that I could say is a solid and a very good sign. Knocking on wood here. But Seth Lugo was really the only guy that I was concerned about down the stretch. He had a couple rough outings, but outside of that, I was even impressed with a guy like Joely Rodriguez. I thought he had some solid outings here and there. Peterson looked solid in his last few outings out of the pen. Trevor May, same goes for him. Diaz, we know what he has been, but it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to be like coming into a scenario where, you know, a lot more pressure, number one, and number two, he hasn't really pitched that much as of lately. So it's going to be interesting to see there. Going to be interesting to see also who goes into the bullpen from this rotation, Cookie or Walker. If I had to guess, Carrasco and Walker will both be available tomorrow out of the bullpen. Actually, maybe not, just because they haven't really gotten their full rest, but they're going to be, one of the two will be available out of the bullpen probably by game 2 or game 3 at the very least. So going to be interesting to see there, because it's not like those guys pitch a lot of innings in their last outing. And then you also have Givens in the bullpen, who's going to be a wild card too. Trevor Williams, you know what you're getting from him. He's a Swiss Army knife for this team. He's going to either give you some multiple outs if you need him to, or he's going to give you a couple very few quality outs if you really need him to as well. So going to be interesting to see what they do there. But the main thing that really needs to happen, this offense needs to wake up. There is no sugarcoating it. The offense was not good enough against the Atlanta Braves, and you're going up against Yu Darvish, who gave the Mets a lot of trouble this season. So it's going to be tough. I think he has a sub-1 ERA against the Mets this season. Then you have Blake Snell, who is lined up to face the Mets in game number 2. And then you have Joe Musgrove lined up as of right now to pitch game number 3. Of course, things could vary. Things could change. I don't know if they're doing kind of what the Mets do, where depending on the outcome of the game, that decides who they pitch the next game. But the bats, it's going to be interesting too. Who makes the roster for the lineup wise? Is Brett Baty healthy? Is he going to be on the roster? I'd imagine not, given the fact that Escobar was absolutely unreal here in September. You're going to need him to keep that up. You're going to need Jeff McNeil to keep it up. But most importantly, you need Pete and Lindor to find their game and to find it quickly. There's no time. It's the wild card. It's a series out, yes, not one game, but you have to get this going quickly. You can't risk getting into a hole early here. You got to get on the board early too. That's another thing that's crucial. The Mets do better when they score very early on in the ball game, and that's something that I'd like to see from them. I'd like to see them get some runs in the first inning, get some runs in the second inning, third inning, whenever it may be. When they score in the first 3 innings, you're feeling good about their chances of winning the ball game, because usually the pitching and the bullpen goes on lockdown mode and shuts things down. So it's going to be interesting to see who ends up making the roster. But in terms of the bats, you need these guys to pick it up. You need them to. I need to see a bit more from Canha. He showed a little bit of struggles down the stretch, played solid against the Nationals, but again, I need to see more. Tyler Naquin, I need to see more out of him. Nimmo, same deal with him. Did well against the Nationals, but I need to see more. There's a lot of guys where they have to prove to me that they could be what they were earlier on in the season. And that is going to be really the most important factor here. And I know it's obvious that I'm saying, oh, the entire roster has to be good. But the real main key I'd like to say out of everything, the biggest X factor that I should say, if I had to pick one out of everything that I mentioned, I would have to say your biggest X factor is the lineup, and specifically Lindor and Alonso. They've done it time and time again this year. They've shown up in spots that they needed to. Granted, they didn't against the Braves, but they have shown up before. They are going to need to show up here, and that is the most important thing, I think, this series. Of course, pitching could win you things, but you realistically need your lineup to also produce, because look at what happened in 2015. The lineup just kind of dried up, and it didn't matter how good the pitching was. The lineup was not good enough to get this team a World Series. So yeah, overall, sucks that we're in the wild card, but at the same time, teams have gone far when they've been in the wild card and even have won a World Series as of lately. That being the Washington Nationals. You've had the Yankees in 2017 make it pretty far being in a wild card spot. There are teams that make it far when they are in a wild card spot. It's just a matter of, can the Mets get things going and do it? We'll have to wait and see, but I will be in attendance for the game tomorrow. If you see me there, say what's up. But that is going to be it for me. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think is the biggest X factor for the Mets in this series going forward. Let me know everything in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for watching this one. If you did enjoy, leave a like on it. Subscribe if you guys are new, especially if you're Met fans. Turn on your notifications so you know when I upload next, and I will see you in the next one. Let's go, Mets.